Hey, what's going on, everybody? James here, your ABX audiophile. Today, we are going to continue our series of reviews with the Orchard Audio gear. If you have not watched the reviews that we did before, so far we have reviewed the Orchard Audio Pecan Pi Plus streamer, which is a burr brown chip-based DAC. Absolutely fantastic. Make sure you go check that review out. We have reviewed the Orchard Audio Star Crimson Duo, which is his 150 watt Class D GAN amplifier. I think that comes in around $1,300 right now. That is an absolute great pairing. You put those two together. Today we are going to continue down that path and look at what is currently his flagship DAC streamer offering. It is the Pecan Pi Plus, and it is a AKM-based DAC chip streamer DAC. And so we're going to take a look at that and talk about that today. I just want to clarify a couple things before we get started. One of our members actually told us about Orchard Audio. I was intrigued with the product. They did not reach out to me. We do not get compensated for any of these reviews. I actually ended up buying the Duo amplifier as well as the Pecan Pi Plus streamer DAC. I got the Ultra prototype version. We'll do a review on that later. It's not out yet. But the one we're talking about today is essentially the one that I ended up purchasing myself with the Star Crimson Duo amplifier. So that's just kind of some transparency. I really like these products. I ended up buying them myself. Leo did not reach out to us for a review. There was no compensation for any of this stuff. If you guys buy these, I don't get a penny. This has nothing to do with any of that other than me just being excited about a brand that really kind of took my game and Kelly's game to the next level. So we're going to talk about the Pecan Pi Plus today, and you're not going to want to miss this. So hang out, let's get into it. All right, so what do we got going on here? Well, you are going to see a lot of similarities because they are basically identical. If you look at the Pecan Pi streamers from Orchard Audio, whether it's the Pi or the Pi Plus, they're going to look absolutely identical. Just standard metal box. You got your volume knob up right here. If you turn it all the way up, you basically bypass and you can, control from your preamp or whatever. On the back is pretty similar to what we were reviewing with the Pecan Pi. You can see you've got your RCA outs, your XLR outs. You've got your 9-volt barrel. You've got your Pecan Pi streamer basically there on the bottom with your USB and your Ethernet, and then you've got a SPDIF and coaxial input. If you wanted to utilize this just as a DAC, you could. And that's basically it. Couple rubber feet down here. I will say that there are options to get, I think the base is just XLR outputs. And if you want to add the RCAs to it, that's an additional cost. So make sure when you go to his website, you choose which implementation or integration is going to be working for you. The other thing that you want to be careful of is when you purchase this thing, there's a whole list of different software integrations that you can choose, whether it's Volumio or Ropey or, they've got a bunch of different ones. So make sure you look into that, reach out to Leo, tell him kind of how you're going to integrate this. Are you going to be using Rune? What kind of software are you going to be using, so you make sure you get the right one. This does not have a standalone app with it, like say something like the Eversolo. So you just want to make sure that you know what you're getting when you get it. So that's kind of the overall build and structure. Let's talk about what's kind of inside, some of the incentives. What are the differences between the Pecan Pi Plus? How did this thing compare to our Eversolo DMP-A6 with the upgraded linear power supply? Also, to see this thing knock Kelly's Weem Mini with the upgraded power supply, silver cables, and the ladder Schumann DAC as a streamer DAC was really interesting. We'll talk about that as well, and we'll get into it. So let's go. All right, so as we kind of move through this space, kind of a quick overview there, kind of getting down into the nuts and bolts of what makes this thing work. One of the things that we talk about in our previous reviews is Leo's kind of intentional focus on the least amount of parts as possible, the fastest path possible, the shortest path possible for the signal to go through, and focusing on quality parts. One example of that, we were talking about this in our Discord the other day, is the clock that he uses in here. This Chrystek clock that he uses is literally the best one that you can buy on the market. They're like $12 a piece just to get this clock. You are not going to see these in any mass-produced, streamer DACs, your Eversolos, anything like that. You're not going to see this high quality of parts in there. What you are going to see in some of these other things, specifically, let's talk about it, the Eversolo DMP-A6 and even the new Eversolo DMP-A8, which is also an AKM-based streamer DAC, and we'll talk about the differences in a minute. You're not going to get all of those bells and whistles. So if you looked at this thing before, there's no fancy screen here. There's no, 9 million ways to integrate it on the back. It's very basic. You've got your USB, integration if you wanted to streamer kind of thing. You've got your coaxial if you wanted to just use this as a DAC. So we've got a little bit of versatility there. And then you've got your XLR and RCAs. And so there's not this big array of HDMI and all these other inputs and outputs and stuff like that. It's just a very purist piece, if you will, kind of focused on sound quality over, some of those other things. But the quality of components you are getting in this thing is far superior to some of the other stuff. So really take a look at those things when you're comparing to some of these other streamer DACs out there. What are you getting in there? What's the quality of that part? I think this thing Leo was talking about with this single AKM 4499 DAC chip in here, and it is their flagship chip. You're getting like 130 dB signal to noise ratio, so ultra quiet. If you look at something like the Eversolo DMP-A8, the brand new one coming in at I think it's $2,000. I think they're claiming like 125 dB signal to noise ratio. So a lot of people say, well, why don't you run dual DAC chips in this? Well, Leo's explaining it as if you're running dual chips, you're going to get about 3 dB better signal to noise ratio. He's already hitting 133. So what's the 3 dB gonna really add to the game? And so, it doesn't really get you much when you're already kind of at that level. So the cost that it would be transferred to the consumer to run that dual DAC chip setup, and actually kind of what you get for that really doesn't justify it. So, basically at the end of the day, it's damn good enough. And how good is it really? Well, I'll tell you how good it is. We put it up, Kelly and I both, we put it up against the Eversolo DMP-A6, which is an $850 streamer DAC. But then inside of that Eversolo DMP-A6, we put the $300 linear power supply upgrade in there. So now you're talking, we're pushing that thing up to about a $1,200, $1,300 streamer DAC. If you watch the Is It Worth It review, he actually said that the Eversolo with the linear power supply probably punches all the way up to better it. I believe he said that you'd have to go to the Gustard A26 or R26. I can't remember which one it was. But that's, punching way up there again too. So keeping that in context, right, where he's placing the Eversolo DMP-A6 with the linear power supply, which was my reference, and then talking about what Kelly was comparing this Pecan Pi Plus to, he was using a Weem Mini with a upgraded linear power supply, a set of custom silver cables that he had made up for that, and the Schumann ladder DAC, which is a $1,500 ladder DAC. So altogether, Kelly's reference streamer DAC was right at about the $2,000 range. Both very, very high-hitting products. I mean, we spent a lot of time curating those, and that became our reference. And within 2 minutes of putting this black box in both of our systems, we auditioned it in both of our systems, it handily and easily bettered the Eversolo DMP-A6 with a linear power supply. That wasn't even a close comparison. I mean, the jump in the focus and detail and clarity, dynamics was so apparent that it was like, oh, well, that's just dumb. I can't do that anymore. And then I, kind of talking to Kelly and stuff. And so we got it over to his house, and we put it up against his Wii Mini linear power supply, custom cables, and the ladder Schumann. And he as well instantly was like, oh yeah, that's just a step up. That's just a step up. And so we kind of started messing with it with a bunch of different DACs. I put the Schiit Bifrost 2, the Aries 2, we had the ladder Schumann, we've got the Black Ice Tube DAC, the stock Eversolo with the ESS. We really couldn't get any configuration to better for us and our ears and our experience, in our rooms, to better the Pecan Pi plus AKM streamer DAC. The sound quality was just so much better that it was just, everything just got set aside. And one of the things that we noticed, and we talked about this too, and this also went for the Pecan Pi, the Burr Brown streamer DAC that for Orchard Audio. There is an engagement that we realized. We were sitting kind of talking to each other as we're listening and auditioning to this Pecan Pi Plus, and we would put the Weem back in with the ladder Schumann, and it sounded great, but it just wasn't engaging. It didn't suck you in. There's like a magnifying glass that is put over the soundstage when you move to this Pecan Pi Plus streamer that just makes you want to look in. You could just see everything. There's just something there that kind of sucked you into the music. And we actually talked about it, and we were kind of giggling as we were like listening to the things and, swapping them out. And, they all performed very well. Don't get me wrong. The Eversolo DMP-A6 with the linear power supply upgrade is fantastic. It is a great sound. The ladder Schumann with the Weem Mini, and that custom setup is a great sound. It is absolutely great. But the Pecan Pi Plus bettered it in almost across the board ways. And there was this level of, like I said, it just sucked you into the music, man. It just sounded like music, and it made you want to listen. And then when you went back to the other stuff, it was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then we'd kind of chitty chat and stuff like that, and the song would be playing, and we'd kind of focus a little bit. And then the minute we put the Pecan Pi streamers back in, it was like, brink, there was no more talking. It was like, dude, we're just like focused on it. It would just kind of suck you in. So interesting thing that we kind of, observed. But I would say, and I'll tell you right now, at the end of the day, both Kelly and I now have set all that other stuff aside. And the Pecan Pi Plus AKM-based streamer DAC is now in both of our systems. He actually has one, and I actually have one now. So, yeah, interesting. One of the other things that, I feel really helps the performance and just kind of overall that sound quality is that, not only the op amps that he's using for the positive and negative, but the AKM DAC chip, as well as pairing those all with linear power supplies. I mean, the quality of the components inside of this unit speak volumes to what you hear. And when you compare it to other things that are kind of similar in build, design, but not quality components, like it's got the AKM chip, and it's got op amps, and it's got, this stuff. It becomes real apparent when you listen to these Orchard Audio Pecan Pi streamers, whether it's the Plus or just the normal one, that really shines through, and you see and you feel that quality of sound and that quality of performance, and it is engaging. So that's really one of the main takeaways for me with the Orchard Audio stuff. All right, well, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that review. If you have been considering and looking into getting a streamer DAC that has just absolutely fantastic quality and performance, I think the Orchard Audio offerings should be on your short list, whether it be the Pi or the Pi Plus. Again, the Pi being the Burr Brown DAC chip, the Pi Plus being the AKM. I think you are going to have to probably punch pretty high to get better sound quality from a streamer DAC. And, I don't know where to place that number. If you say to yourself, based on some reviews and some experience, you'd probably have to easily get up to close to $2,000, in my opinion, in my experience, to better the sound quality, not the bells and whistles, the sound quality that you're going to get out of this Orchard Audio stuff. And I think that's one of the great features for me, is that this is a really good way for you to get super hi-fi, high-end sound and not have to really break the bank if you can sacrifice a few things. You know, that is those bells and whistles that we talked about. You know, just in closing, Eversolo DMP-A6 with linear power supply, $1,200-$1,300. Sitting on the shelf collecting dust. Not that it's not great, because it is. But I find the Pecan Pi Plus bettered it. Kelly's streamer DAC, which was the Weem Pro, with all of the linear power supply paired with the ladder Schumann. That's a $2,000 streamer DAC configuration. Sitting on the shelf collecting dust. Not that it's not great, because it's fantastic, but it just didn't do what the Pecan Pi Plus did for us in our systems, to our ears, you know, and kind of met our preferences. So I think that probably to get a sound quality increase in performance on an overall scope, you're probably going to have to punch up to the $2,000 range to kind of better what the Pecan Pi Plus could bring to your system. Again, take that all subjectively, because they're all just tuning forks for your system. You know, at the end of the day, maybe the AKM is for you. Maybe Leo's products are for you. Maybe you prefer the Burr Brown. Maybe you prefer the stock Eversolo A6, which is fine. It's fantastic. We just didn't. You know, maybe you prefer, you know, something else that's out there. But that's our take. That's our view. That's our space. That's our experience. And we just wanted to share that with you. So you guys have a fantastic day. I appreciate y'all hanging out. And stay tuned, because we are going to be reviewing the Star Crimson Ultra. Oh, that's such a good amplifier. My God. So good that Kelly actually gave up on all his tube amplifiers, purchased it, and it's now in his main system. And if you know Kelly, that's saying a lot. So anyway, appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.